Good morning, this is Sonia from An Enthusiastic Reader, and I'm here today to do a recent reads video. I did finish The Vagrants by Eowyn Lee. This is a novel about the microcosm of a small city named Muddy River in China in 1979, and it's all centered around the execution of a counter-revolutionary, and you see and meet many different people in the town, most of whom have suffered under the communist regime. So it's not an uplifting book by any means, but I think it was a really good historical novel, and I would recommend it. This author is one that I would like to read more of her work, if not all of her work. I think there are still 2 short story collections and 2 novels I have yet to read. And so I will be slowly picking my way through all of the works that she has published. I finished All You Can Ever Know by Nicole Chung. This is a transracial adoption memoir. I thought this was pretty good, although I do feel like the story got stretched more than it needed to be. I don't think it had enough to be a full memoir. One downside of this memoir is that she doesn't name her parents or her biological parents, so she just calls them my mother, my father, my birth mother, my birth father, and we never get to hear their names. And I think even if she had created a pseudonym for them, it would have helped me to connect to them. As it was, I felt very removed from all of her parents. But she's very honest about her experience in being adopted by a white family. I think she could have gone more into reactions from society, but it was pretty insular, and so I give it a 3 stars.
I forgot to say that I did enjoy the sister relationship between the author and one of her biological sisters. It felt very genuine and honest, and I was so happy that she was able to connect with someone from her biological family.
I finished The Snow Child by Owens Ivey, and I'm sure you've heard about this story. It is in Alaska. A couple that was unable to have children moves there to escape from the sadness of losing a child, and they are incredibly sad people in this very small, isolated town, and by some miraculous turn of events, they are able to create a child out of a snow child that they built in a happy moment during a snowstorm. And so you have to pretty much, take it on faith that this is what happened. But all in all, I thought it was a pretty good story about marriage and about community. I am not a big fan of the retelling of a fairy tale, but the writing was good, and I think it'll be a good book club discussion. I also finished The Silkworm by Robert Galbraith. It was the second in the Cormoran Strike series. I really like this series. I love when you read a mystery series and you are rooting for the underdog, embattled detective, and there's a potential love interest and a broken heart, and then the mystery itself, which I thought was actually pretty good this time. So I will definitely be keeping up with that series. I have a book on pause, which is You Know You Want This by Kristen Roupenian. I went to see her at a book signing. She's the author that wrote the Cat Person short story that was the viral story on Twitter when it was published in the New Yorker in December of 2017. And it was interesting to hear Kristen talk about her experience of everyone projecting their sexual anxieties and dating anxieties on the character of the story Cat Person, whom everyone just naturally assumed to be her, the author. And she was saying, hey, I am the author, I have an imagination. This is a work of fiction. Please don't project all of this stuff on me and about your own insecurities in your own life. And I thought that was fun. I've read the first 3 stories in the collection, You Know You Want This, and they're really intense, very dark. They're not like realist in any way. Some of them, and she even said this at the signing, that, you know, she writes horror mostly and very dark psychological fiction, not realist dating stories. So the very first story is just makes you almost feel terrible, even though the writing is really good. So I need to kind of dole these stories out one at a time over maybe months, because just listening to them, they're pretty nihilistic and very gloomy and not uplifting at all. Makes you never want to fall in love. I got 2 books that I'm reading for the long haul, and what I mean by that is to say it's going to take me a long time to read them. It's not, they don't lend themselves well to just sitting down and reading them cover to cover. And the first one is Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat by Samin Nostrat. I saw her Netflix series by the same name, and it made me want to buy the cookbook. And so now I'm learning about, in this first chapter, how to use salt effectively and why you should season your meat as soon as you bring it home from the grocery store, and some of the science behind osmosis and diffusion. So probably would have benefited in having this book 30 years ago when I was starting to learn how to cook, but I'm learning a lot, and there are great illustrations in this book I really like, and I just like the overall vibe of the writing. So she's very generous and very kind to people who don't know these things. And the other book that I picked up I'm excited about is called Dreyer's English by Benjamin Dreyer. He is the copy editor for Random House, and his book is all about copy editing. And if you've ever copy edited a book, you know how important the details are. So he is one of my all-time favorite Twitter personas. I follow him and have been following him for years. I was so excited to see him coming out with a book, and it's doing really well, and it couldn't be bestowed upon a nicer guy. So yay, Benjamin. I will be happy to read this book. I started Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. The jury's out on this. I just started it. I have nothing to say about it. And I'll be starting Bitter Orange by Claire Fuller. Those are my other 2 book club books that I'll be reading for February. And I get to do my very first buddy read with Sean and I think Doris from Audiobooks. We're reading The Known World by Edward P. Jones. Yay, excited. Haven't done a buddy read before, so I've been wanting to read this book for a long time, and finally getting to it, and I'm excited to read it with other people. And I'll be starting Inheritance by Danny Shapiro, which I picked up when I was at that book signing the other night. So that's all I've read, am reading, and will be reading. I am canceling my Audible account, which I'm pretty excited about, because I realize I don't really need to buy audiobooks. I have the library, and I also got a new subscription to Scribd after having seen Sean use it so much, and I'm really surprised and happy about how many titles are available, so I'm going to be doing that for a while and seeing how it goes. And that's all I have for today. Please let me know what you're doing in February, and I'm excited to talk to you in the comments.